Are we rolling Spirit? What's up, guys? Your McKinley Crain here. Today I'm going to be doing my spoiler-free movie review of the 2021 action horror film that I just recently saw earlier today, which came out today, which is the sequel to the 2018 horror film A Quiet Place, which is A Quiet Place Part 2. So let's get into it. So, A Quiet Place Part 2 stars Emily Blunt as Evelyn Abbott, Millicent Simmons as Regan Abbott, who is her daughter, her oldest kid, Regan is her oldest daughter. Well, actually, I think it's her only daughter. But it's her oldest kid. This film also stars Noah Jupe as Marcus Abbott, who is the slightly younger sibling. Evelyn is their mother, by the way. So this film takes place directly after the events of the first film. Not like directly, like, it just, not like directly, like like the opening scene of this movie is the ending scene of the last movie. But, like, maybe like a day after or something. And, in this film, Evelyn and her family, like, are trying to basically, just survive in this apocalyptic world that they're living in, where these monsters, well, they're actually aliens. And that's no spoiler, because I think that was in the trailer. It's revealed at the beginning of this movie in, like, kind of a flashback scene, because the opening scene is like a flashback scene, that these are actually aliens. So these aliens are, like, have, like, invaded the world, and, all the humans are trying to, kind of like survive that stuff. Survive them. Like, get away from them. Run. And so basically, this is the whole gimmick of this franchise. The reason why these movies are called, like, A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part 2 is because these aliens, like, have super good hearing, and they're also very sensitive to sound. So, like, if you speak, they can't see worth a crap, but, like, they're kind of like dogs in this way. Like, no, not dogs, elephants. Yeah, that's a better comparison. Like, they have really good hearing. Like, even the slightest noise can, like, alert them, kind of like alert them to where you are, and, they can detect which direction it's coming from most of the time, which works. And that it's a very original concept, and even though this is a sequel, this concept is still used very originally and creatively. And this was just an awesome film that I really enjoyed. It's perfect. It's actually a little bit better than the original. It was like, I had a hard time deciding which one was better when watching the movie. I was just like, do I like this one better than the original, or the original better? And I kind of kept going back and forth. But by the end of this movie, there was like a gnat biting at me. It had to die. Wait, I didn't even get it. So whatever. By the end of this movie, I had made a final decision, which was that I liked A Quiet Place Part 2 a little bit better than the original. They're both perfect movies. They're both a hell of a good time. But I like this one better than I like the original. I love this movie. And I love the original too. But we're talking about this movie in this video, so yeah. I love this movie. It's just so thrilling, so incredibly thrilling. It's very thrilling. It's very touching. Like, there are a whole bunch of touching moments. It's awesome. It's clever too. It's got really clever writing. And it's got really suspenseful moments that will just keep you at the edge of your seat, and really thrilling moments that'll keep you at the edge of your seat. This is a very thrilling horror movie. It's the second best film of 2021 in my opinion, behind the Snyder Cut. This film was definitely worth the wait. It has great acting in it. Great writing, and the thing about this film, it kind of answers a lot of the questions that a lot of people had after seeing the first film. Like how are you going to survive in a world where, alien monsters attack you when they hear a sound with a newborn baby? Because, newborn babies crying all the time. Well, this film kind of answers how they manage it, and it's clever. It's like, they do it in such a clever and believable way. It's like, yeah, that's what I would do, honestly. That was a smart decision. And even though this is a horror movie, there's a lot of action in it, and the action in this film is awesome and just really thrilling. And the cinematography in this film is awesome and really thrilling. And back on the topic of the story, in the about 20 minutes into the film, this family meets this loner dude named Emmett, who's played by Cillian Murphy. And he doesn't really trust a lot of people, but he ends up kind of trusting them. And he has really great chemistry with them, and he's like, this film kind of makes him like one of the new kind of main characters in the franchise. And he's a very likable guy, especially as the film goes on and we learn more about him. He gets more likable as the film goes on. At first we're just the movie wants us to think, should we trust this guy? But he gets more likable as the movie goes on. And know that it's not a spoiler, because the trailer clearly made it obvious that this dude was not a villain or anything, and that he was a hero. And I'm not really spoiling anything by saying that he becomes more likable throughout the rest of the film. Throughout as the film goes on. And that's not a spoiler. It's not spoiling the movie. Anyway, one thing that was really kind of different and unique about this film that I noticed was that, okay, so in the first Quiet Place movie, they use the main characters speak in both sign language and, like, just normal English, but, like, whispering and stuff. It's like all whispering and stuff, but most of it is sign language. They mostly use sign language in this film. Not in this film. In the original Quiet Place movie, they mostly use sign language, and they occasionally whisper to each other. But that's totally flipped in this movie, in the sequel. In the sequel, they mostly communicate by whispering, and rarely communicate with sign language. And when they do communicate with sign language, they're mostly like speaking, like whispering at the same time while using the sign language, which isn't a bad thing at all. It's actually a very unique and creative and just awesome thing to do for this movie, or whatever, like, thing they did this movie. It really works. And speaking of the sign language, it's very easy to understand. You don't even need, like, the subtitles or whatever that they put up there to understand the sign language. I don't know if it's just me, but I could understand, like, all of the sign language in this film without even, like, needing the subtitles. Of course, I read the subtitles, and I understood what the subtitles were saying, but there's not, like, I'm not gonna say that they didn't need the subtitles. And there's nothing wrong with the subtitles. Putting subtitles in this movie actually made it better. But I'm saying, if you don't really like to read subtitles, you don't have to really, like, pay attention to the subtitles or, like, read them when you're watching the movie. You can just pay attention to, like, the character doing the sign language. That's just what I'm saying. Anyway, I loved everything about the movie, and I loved a lot of the directions this movie took. They took, like, daring and clever directions, and this movie tries to, like, make us believe one thing at certain points, and then, like, reveal that, like, this is not as it seems. This situation is not as it seems, and that's just used so awesomely in this movie. And this movie's just awesome. It's got great pacing. It's got perfect pacing. I do want to point out that there is a certain, like, part of the film that's, like, at the end of the middle of the film, where the story does get a bit slow. Sorry, I had to pause the video. So this film does get a little slow, but not the boring kind of slow. It's like the entertaining kind of slow and the necessary kind of slow that's used to build character in this film, and, like, really focus on, like, the characters, like, inner motivations and feelings about situations they're in, and it's used to add a lot of character development, and it really works. So, but even though it's not the boring kind of slow, I know that a lot of people don't like slow parts of movies. Like, there are just some people that don't like slow parts of movies. I like them, and I love the slow part of this movie. I mean, it's not the bad kind of slow, it's the great kind of slow, that's necessary, and that's not boring. And I love this movie. This movie was just awesome, and it exceeded my expectations by a little bit. I expected it to be perfect. I just didn't expect it to be as perfect as it was. And it has a perfect ending. This film has a very satisfying ending. And it's just awesome, and I love it, and it was worth every second of my time. Anyway, I'm gonna give this movie a 100% out of 100%, which is the equivalent of an A+. Like, subscribe, join the notification squad. I will return.